Hello, everybody. This is Frank with Iron Age News, at the South Florida Conservative News Center. It is Monday, December 29th, quarter to 11. Christmas and Boxing Day are both past, and we're going to discuss some more about the angst-ridden gay drama that is what they call the Turning Point USA events, and cut through the commentary that everybody else has gotten out there and deal with some very specific issues. And it's very should be very concerning to anybody who is actually trying to be part of the political process and want to see the Republican Party retain control for what is happening right now. So what happens when a movement becomes so lucrative that fighting over the audience becomes more important than winning elections? We are there. That's the moment the Republican Party is in right now. And today, and I'll issue the warning not to the voters, but to Republican public officials, public figures, influencers, and media personalities who are carving up the conservative consumer dollar while quietly weakening the party they claim to serve. Because if this continues, the midterms won't just be competitive, they could be a total reversal for the Republicans, and by that, for freedom and liberty in the United States. So let's start with a fact a few people want to say out loud. The conservative audience is one of the most monetized political consumer bases in American history. They buy subscriptions to things, they pay for podcasts, premium newsletters, super chats, merchandise. They go to events that cost hundreds of dollars a seat. They get exclusive truth behind the paywall. This isn't tens of millions, it is billions of dollars annually. And whenever there's that much money, incentives change. The question stops being, how do we win elections? And becomes, how do I keep my slice of the pie? Or even worse, how do I get a bigger slice of the pie? And that's when movements rot from the inside. And you are seeing it now in real time. So here's the uncomfortable truth about it. Once again, go watch any of the Turning Point stuff since the assassination of Kirk. Look at any of the influencers that are out there, and you know who they all are. Unity is bad for the media business. Policy, when you're adhered to, is boring. Governance is slow, and victory ends urgencies. But outrage, betrayal, accusations, WWE style grudge matches, purity tests, those are recurring revenue for models for the media. So, what do we see instead of policy debates? You see Republicans attacking Republicans. You see loyalty tests replacing strategy. You see personal feuds masquerading as moral crusades. The more chaotic the movement looks, the more content gets sold, and the audience pays while the candidates out there on the edges pay the political price. So here's what swing voters see when this plays out publicly. And the undecideds and undeclareds are the huge majority this time out. They do not see policy. They do not see seriousness. They do not see competence. They see chaos, endless drama, egos fighting over attention, conspiracy theorists at large, racism, anti-Semitism, more so than you see in the Democrats, if that's possible in some cases. And they draw a simple conclusion: these people can't govern because the president will not be with them at the end of this term. It's already been said, right? So that's how you lose suburban voters. That's how you lose independents. That's how you bleed out those narrow majorities in certain areas or the minority votes in some places. Meanwhile, all the influencers are still getting paid. They're like a real estate agent. They get paid when you sell your house, when you buy your house, whatever. They're still getting paid. So be precise. The damage isn't caused by all conservative media. It's mostly by specific behaviors, and we're not going to call them out by name. It's too easy, but you will know who they are by these stereotype or typecast names. We have the Civil War entrepreneur, People who make their living attacking other Republicans and never build anything. They have nothing to show in their career except that they constantly attack, attack, attack. Loyalty for sale operators. When access, defense, or endorsements appear transactional, they will be there for that. You've seen a few of them recently, right? Crisis merchants who require permanent emergencies to sustain their business model. Tune in tomorrow when I will talk about what is scaring you to death, or what will end your life, or when will the Chinese attack, that type of stuff. And also a very, very virulent one, which is the shapeshifter, who pivot ideologies based on analytics and call it enlightenment. One day you're a Democrat, the next day you're a Republican, the next day you're a bigger Republican telling you that some other Republican is a Democrat. None of these people pass legislation. None of them win districts, but they can absolutely lose elections for other people. You know, the practical advice for the Republican candidates heading into midterms, and this applies in a number of situations in the world right now. This is the most glaring. Never let influencers define your identity. Local support beats national celebrity. Refuse to referee media feuds. Policy discipline is electoral armor, right? If you have discipline in your policy, this is what we're doing. I'm not going to just be swayed by this, that, and the other thing. You are armed up, hard to kill. Endorsements that come without obedience aren't endorsements, they are liabilities. Okay. So if your campaign survives only because someone with a microphone protects you, then they own you. And when they come on to the next outrage, you're exposed. And if they need somebody to grind up to make their bread, you are there. So it seems a boost to have certain people. I'm not talking about the president. I'm talking about these figures in the news. And I can tell you personally, I saw this occur when Ben Shapiro, and I'm not singling him out, but I actually was at these events. Ben Shapiro was pretty much running Ron DeSantis for a president, and he had paid for his book tour, and he was the one who sat down and asked him the puffy questions and this and that and the other thing. And it was very much when you watched it, you said, God damn, right? This guy owns this guy. Or if he doesn't, they should get a room or something. Okay. And that had a lot to do, I think, with what went on. Firstly, what was he thinking about against Trump? But there was a media figure who turned around and thought too much of himself. And honestly, he always has thought too much of himself. He's not as effing smart as he thinks he is because he is an unsympathetic character in the great game of this. All right. He's out there to make money. He's probably more affiliated with the Bush people. He's always hated Trump, blah, blah, blah. Fine. Okay. But then you have to see what he's done. He's made millions and millions and millions of dollars on people who think that he is out there supporting whatever or whatever. So every movement eventually is going to have to choose, do we grow power or do we extract value? The turning point events when Charlie was alive were to energize the base, to keep things going, to keep it going. Here's the new stars. He was breaking the new stars in the industry that were going to push back against mainstream media, this, that, and the other thing. It then became a launch pad. Now it's a cavalcade of stars. Come out and see them because politics is now entertainment. Politics has taken the place of professional sports. More people follow these shitbags like Candace Owens than a baseball player or a soccer player or whatever. That's just how it's gone. And they have led you astray because, as we learned with Mr. Kramer back in the old days when he bankrupted people with his bullshit stock predictions on television, these people will lead you to political ruin and laugh and go off to Martha's Vineyard and never to be seen again, right? And you will be living in a world of shit. So Once again, do we grow power or do we extract value? If conservative public figures continue to treat the movement like a marketplace instead of a mission, the result is going to be pretty predictable. That's what, at this point, the socialists have over the Republican Party. And under the Republican Party, I mean the conservative slash MAGA people, not the Bush people, not the Lindsey Graham people, not the turtle people, Mitch McConnell. That's a whole other ball of wax. But as he said, if this is how it's going to be, marketplace instead of mission, the loudest voices are going to get richer, the party gets weaker, the voters get exhausted, and the opposition quietly walks back into power. All they have to do is tone down the crazy, and they will make it happen. As Mamdani is doing in New York, except for hiring the lesbian fire chief who has no experience at all in the industry, right? All it has to do is remember one thing: its purpose is victory. That's what the party motive should be, is victory. Putting asses in seats is what it's about. It's not about how can I have the next stunning event with X, Y, and Z attending because that'll draw a crowd. You need them to get out and vote. If you like Tucker Carlson for whatever reason, he is not going to be able to guarantee a victory for anybody. All he can do, they say, is access. Do you want access on some of these shows? You see the type of people that some of them bring on. You see now that Nick Fuentes guy who has nothing going for him. He has nothing. He has no answers to anything. He's like that woman propaganda guy, the little guy who got slapped in the face. It's him. It's the same guy without a mustache. It's a little Weasley dude who's been helped along by opposition. Once again, look into how he's been financed for the last few years since he got out of school. He's not living with his mom. He's making money through discreet private donations. We did a thing on it. Tell him to open his books. If you don't believe me, tell him to open his books. Show you his tax returns. He wasn't living like a gangster, but he was living on something that he can't justify. I'm quite sure you'll find out. So I don't want to get into that guy. Let's stick to the important thing is if people that swear they're conservatives are more worried about buying a t-shirt and yeah, hell yeah, and this and that and the other thing, instead of making sure you have quality candidates. Because let me tell you, I have seen some of the candidates that we have for office in our part of Florida, and I could go to the nearest homeless shelter and get three assholes at random out and run them, clean them up, and run them against these guys on issues and would probably win. So the Democrats down here are just going to sit back with whoever they normally have, who will not act crazy until they get in office, and they will let the Republicans savage each other because they can feel that money, They can the Republicans are fighting over that money. They're like, I don't even want the job. I want to be picked out of the lineup as that person with gumption. I want to be the next Marjorie Taylor Greene, right? Look at Dan Bongino. He was going to be the man. Well, he's not the man, right? You can say what you want. He's not the man. And he didn't know it when he went in there. And you can't have people that are unwilling or in a fantasy world about certain things going and running your operations. It's just me. But I would tell you that's what's happened. Why do you think Michigan is or Minnesota? Why are they so screwed up? Why were the Somalis able to steal $18 billion, right? Because people knew what they were doing, or people didn't care, or people were put in positions where they could fail because they made a lot of noise or did that, this, that, and the other thing, right? There's a lot going on out there, guys. Party unity should be the number one thing. If Turning Point, and I'll use that because they're where most of the arguments go on, because that's where people can smell the money. That's where all the big cash comes for the parties. That was Charlie's doing But once again, Charlie is no longer with us. So maybe they should turn around and stop it. Stop it right now. Do the regular events that they used to do. Keep the king with the kids going because his movement is the biggest movement for getting conservative thought out to the younger people. We've got to save the future. But all this other rock and roll bullshit, I feel like it's the WWF. I'm waiting. The flashes come on, the guy comes out, you know, it's all very false, very contrived. If that's what the people like, are we a modern tent religious revival? That's how it's being played. Would like a Limbaugh have gone for this? I don't think so. Bill Buckley surely wouldn't have. So it's up to you to say that to people when they're telling you this, that, and the other thing. It should be about policy. What are you going to do? How are you going to win? I don't want to hear any of this other bullshit. How are you going to win? If you're in a position to investigate the fraud, how are we going to investigate it? Why doesn't Pan Bondi do anything? Those are questions that are totally legal to ask. All the other shit is just wasting your time and my time. So, otherwise, have a good day, and I will talk to you later on. Goodbye.